Welcome back to the What the Hype Water Cooler, where today we're reacting to Season 4, Episode 7 of The Boys. Before we get started, if you're not already, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to the What the Hype channel here on YouTube so you never miss a new episode or our latest water cooler. I am here in the studio today with Eric and Andrew. Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi.
Yeah. It's a hard episode because of the major loss in this episode of The Boys. A certain nautical creature.
Oh, is that where you'd like to start? Is the Deep and Ambrosius? Because
She was the best of us, okay? She was the best of us.
I know.
This is how you know the show has lost its moral compass, is when Ambrosius.
Did the show have a moral compass?
Yeah.
Apart from Starlight?
It was Ambrosius.
It was Ambrosius? Yeah. This was rough. We can get into it. So, the Deep he's definitely on his, I think, true villain origin arc at this point. And, I think this is, if you're watching this, you've already watched the episode or you don't care about being spoiled. But the Deep basically suffocates his tentacled lover.
That whole plot line just throughout has been so uncomfortable to watch. So in a way, I'm actually kind of glad it happened.
It was the one time in the show you actually hear the voice of the sea creature that the Deep can hear too. You know, like consistently.
And it's Tilda Swinton.
Oh my God.
That is incredible.
I know.
Yeah, no, the scene was interesting too, because I actually expected her to kind of throw herself off the destroyed tank, that bench or whatever you want to call it was on, and I was expecting her tentacles to come under the door because he was up against the door. I was expecting tentacles to come under, like start touching him or something, like desperately. So I was bracing for that. That didn't happen, thank goodness. But
no,
it's like this is men, including the Deep, will do literally anything, including suffocating their lovers before going to therapy.
Yeah, and the Deep wrote poetry. He was sitting there reading his own poetry to Ambrosius. So he clearly has like this sensitive spirit inside of him, but rather than like try to dig into that a little deeper, if you will, he's so like caught up in the toxic masculinity that's really being promoted by Homelander and, Vought in the interest of keeping his career going and ultimately serving his own best interests, that he kills the one partner that he's had for a consistent period of time during this and who actually just cares about him for who he is and doesn't care that he's a soup.
Yeah. This is also typical behavior seen in the real world, I think, is not recognizing those parts of us that are the best. That are the best of us, that are, our more creative side. And rather than nurture that, we push it down, kill anybody that brings it up. I'm just speaking from personal experience. There's everybody dead that ever brought it out. And, it just is a real shame when that happens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I thought we could also touch on the Avenue V stuff that the episode kicks off with. Again, like this show is just, it's not subtle. The parallels that it's drawing to reality and real history that's happened. Avenue V is obviously a take on Avenue Q, but they're really getting into this like Nazi-esque rhetoric with trying to encourage children to like turn in their parents if they think their parents might be anti-soup. It's definitely giving Hitler Youth, for sure.
Yeah, and poor Ryan objects to
what's
the messaging in this show, and his dad treats him like garbage once more.
Yeah.
Now this is jumping to the end of the episode, but it's the same plot line. I'm actually surprised that children's show was broadcasting live. Like, I get why they're doing it for the plots, but still, it was surprising that that would be a live event. I wasn't really expecting that.
Yeah, well, there's that long tradition of like Christmas. It has a live
Yeah.
broadcast on a network TV. Think about it, thinking back to Scrooged. They did that live where it was.
Mm.
I mean, in universe in that movie anyway. But you're right. Like there were clearly signs that it wasn't all going to work out great. From earlier in the episode when Ryan first sort of asked, maybe they should have had a backup plan for that.
Right, or pre-tape it.
Yeah, thinking about the lives of everyone in that studio when Homelander comes downstairs, and that actually the puppeteers were very smart. The second that yeah, the
That
second
was
Ryan,
funny.
they just oh god,
Yeah.
totally got themselves.
I love how the puppets just fell too.
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
they
yeah,
all like,
just deflated.
both-
Ah.
yeah.
It's like these guys are some of the smartest in the. If you think back a couple of episodes to when Homelander visited the lab where he grew up, and everyone's kind of stuck there and can't really get out. This is the kind of escape you hope to see from all like the would be collateral damage.
For sure. Well, we'll see if, ultimately they fully escape. Although it kind of seems like the next episode, we're not going to see a ton Vought. I think we might with the Gen V kids. Like, I think this episode actually gave us a pretty good hint that the Gen V kids are being held at Vought because, and this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but the room where Webweaver is being kept is at Vought. And it looks a lot like the room that the kids in Gen V were in at the end of that season.
Oh.
So I think they're definitely there. So they're probably going to break out somehow next episode to get involved in, whatever's happening in our nation's capital.
So this is what I'm missing by not watching
Yep.
Gen V.
100%. Also, you're just missing a really great show.
I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
Gen V is actually good. It's actually good, but as of yet, it has next to nothing to do with The Boys. Besides being set in the same universe, there's some Easter eggs, but
Yeah.
it really has not greatly impacted the show. And on that thought, we finally have a newly synthesized virus. The sort of development of that virus was one of the central points to Gen V, but the idea that the doctor can do it without any sort of test subjects, like it took him all year and all many like test subjects, we'll just say, to do that during Gen V, to develop the virus, and the idea that he could do it without it. I'm sorry, but this is peak Frenchie nonsense. That sort of plucky, you can do anything. It's finally reached a tipping point where I'm like, no, this is garbage. This is not, realistic. As far as, science and developing the vaccine, whatever, or the virus.
Yeah, I tend to agree, Eric. I feel like there were a couple of things in this episode, that being a really key one. But there were a couple of things that kind of indicated to me that there's been a lot going on this season, and they're really trying to cram a lot into these last couple of episodes, where it's just like even suspending my disbelief as I do when I watch a show like The Boys, it's kind of hard to accept that Samir would take, as you said, the entire season of Gen V to be able to develop something that isn't even strong enough to take out Homelander. And then suddenly he's in like this less than optimal lab setting with Frenchie, and he's able to do it and
in a week
cause a lot of and obviously like attack Kimiko, which leads to Frenchie having to like saw her leg off before the virus spreads into her body. Like that particular plot device I think works really well, but I agree with you that the virus development piece has been weak this season.
I'm not a geneticist, but it just
Yeah, me
seems
neither.
unrealistic. Yeah.
I agree. There are a couple other things too. Like I would say one thing that stuck out to me about this episode was Ryan just having a very obvious present from Butcher under the tree in Vought Tower in Homelander's apartment. Like, come on. That Homelander can smell Huey's sweat He calls this out in an earlier episode. He smells a droplet of Huey's sweat and knows that that's Huey. There's no way that a present would come from Butcher and that Homelander would not pick up on that. I'm sorry.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
The thing that bothered me about his gift to Ryan is that Ryan had to open it. Because Homelander has like that, kind of see-through vision. I'd love to see Ryan deploy that, not have to open the present and just look at it. That's what I thought he was scanning all the presents. I was like, oh, he gets to see what's in them without opening them. What kid
where's
wouldn't
the fun
love
in
that? But then he opens it,
in...
and I don't know, does he just leave it down there? Like, it's just an open picture. It's so obvious, too. It's an obvious fuck you to Homelander, that picture of Becca, Butcher, and the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about where we know this is obviously going next week. So we find out that there's a whole assassination plot set up to happen on the 6th. And it seems like there's, depending on which side of this equation you're on, you might have a different assassination plot. Some people are trying to get Singer. Some people are trying to get Homelander. There's even, a portion of this that's potentially directed at Newman. So it's going to be chaotic next week, but we find out that the assassin that Sage has engaged with is a soup shapeshifter, which is going to make it really, really hard to apprehend that person and stop it from happening next week.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting cliffhanger and really upsetting too, because we've known that this was heading towards an insurrection, a January 6th style event. And now they have this weapon that is just going to cause mass chaos. I mean, it kind of ties into the beginning of the season too, when they were orchestrating chaos via Sage, thinking about like setting up, what was it, Starlight's people were, they made it look like Starlight's fans were the ones causing the chaos. So now here we are again. It's kind of gone full circle with more chaos
100%.
Through Starlight. Yeah.
And I don't even know what to expect from Sage at this point either, because Homelander has dismissed her. But she also left her, I don't know if y'all noticed this, she had her little Queen Maeve planning notebook that she carried around with her all season. She left it in the conference room. And Sage she's the smartest person alive. I have to think that was intentional. And if we're to believe she's the smartest person alive, then all of this has to be part of her plan. Like, she has to have foreseen that Homelander would fire her and have made, whatever accommodations she could have in advance so that her plan would still play out. No?
Well, and she attests that everything that was leaked to the boys is under her direction. That it's actually going according to her plan, that she wanted them to find. I mean, you can always lie and say that anyway. But the idea that she wanted them to have like the Secret Service detail and stuff so that they would come in and make a mess of it. The idea that she's counting on that adds tension to, we of course want our boys to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and she also, allegedly knew that A-Train was the leak the entire time. That's part of what you're saying here, Eric. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately why Homelander is like, get out. And I think what he says to her is like, you're lucky I'm not sending you home in a bucket.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the A-Train arc, I'm really loving A-Train.
Yeah.
Now. That's the series sets him up as the one soup you will never ever love. But
one more thing on Sage really quick.
Yeah.
Why develop this character all this way if she's not going to have a critical role in the finale?
Right.
Yeah.
And two, I was reading this in a recap. I won't take credit for it, but in that notebook that you mentioned, Laura, that she left behind, there's a drawing of Maeve in it that is seen. So it's like, so Maeve must be part of the plan in the finale too.
I wondered that too.
Yeah, like where's she been?
Well, she's so unique in that she wanted to get out and actually got out. Presumably without powers, because of the Soldier Boy thing, and she's just out. She's just left to be a citizen now. Interesting. Okay, but I think the show would probably have more to do with her. The Sage part, I really laughed out loud at Tech Nights, when she sort of is very childish again due to her injury, eats all the chocolate and forces Victoria to, say her bit, which they get on tape. So that's nice. I've really enjoyed Sage this season, but you're right. Like, she wouldn't just walk away.
Yeah.
She's got to have a plan for this.
No, she definitely has her tentacles in the Seven. And she's manipulating all of them.
The funniest thing about that is that the Deep and Sage were apparently not exclusive, and Deep just found that out, that she was also doing stuff with Noir, but maybe without the lobotomy required.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like she needed to lobotomize herself to have sex with the Deep.
And not with Noir's replacement.
Amazing.
An extra blow given what Deep just did to, his own other romantic prospects.
Yep. Yeah, the Deep just, I really like what they've done with his character, because he's such a joke. And the bigger of a joke that he becomes, the more horrible things that he does to the other people around him who actually care about him. I wanted to ask y'all, because I feel like next episode there are going to be deaths, and I wanted to see who do y'all think? Who do y'all predict is going to die next episode? Honestly, I think Mother's Milk. I think they're setting him up to die. There's this
Marvin.
whole arc. Yeah, there's this whole arc this episode where he's like, will he, won't he go with his family to Belize? And last second, he's like, no, I can't, because this conflict is going to become a global conflict and I can't run away from it. I feel like they're setting him up to be
it was such an important
lamb.
Exchange between MM and A-Train. Such an important exchange. And A-Train really admitted to not hating himself for that one little second where he had rescued MM from Tech Knights, RIP. But I think A-Train's days are probably numbered. He is now outed as look, anyone who's a confirmed leak really does not last long. And although it's been interesting to watch Homelander not kill Butcher for 4 seasons now, I don't think, I think that's exclusive. I think Homelander needs like an equal opposite kind of character. But A-Train, Ashley are like they are expendable now from moment 1 of the next episode. And so maybe, it might just be that both A-Train and MM are like the major casualties next week.
Yeah, it does definitely feel like they're like A-Train's story is wrapped. Like there's nothing else.
Yeah. Well, and
his family is safe.
They killed the wrong person too when looking for the leak. What was the Spider-Man?
That guy sucked.
Webweaver
sucked.
Yeah.
Why was it coming out of the lower back? They could have went grosser with that, in my opinion. But okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, read the comics. If you want the boys to be grosser, read the comics. The comics are much grosser.
Laura, I've never seen a more effective ad to not do something than what you
seriously.
said about the comics. Yeah.
You don't need to. You really don't need to. It's not necessary. Great. Show's way better.
That's awesome.
I want Homelander to die, but it's not going to happen this season. I would like next season is going to be the final season of this show. Mm-hmm. I would like to see him fucking die already. He shouldn't come out. It shouldn't end with him living through all of this, especially how they've been working towards trying to kill him. So while I wish Homelander would be one to die, I don't think it'll be happening next episode. But yeah, I agree with your predictions, particularly about A-Train.
You know what's crazy though? Just thinking about this, if the virus spreads the way that it does in Kimiko and they do somehow get it in Homelander, say in a limb, he could just laser off his own limb and prevent it from stopping the way that they saved Kimiko. Like, it doesn't seem like the virus is built to last. It's not, they've already suggested it's not good enough to kill Homelander. They're trying to get maybe Vicky as like a consolation, but Homelander is going to be the one to beat, as always. Pretty wild.
I feel like... Oh, go ahead.
The actor is still great. I still love watching Homelander 100%. You
Yeah.
understand the character at this point. It's amazing, just utterly amazing.
Oh yeah, Anthony Starr is great. I mean, he definitely deserves an Emmy for how well he acted the scene where he got splashed in the face with Firecracker's new breast milk. He's great. He's fantastic, and they've honestly, again, another comic comparison. Homelander is a much better character in the show,
Mm,
and that's true for pretty much everyone. If I'm being honest, I
that's good
love
to
what they've
know.
done with the show. There have been a couple of stumbles this season. I think particularly with like to Eric, to your point, the way that they've factored in Gen V. Like, I don't know, Andrew, from your perspective as someone who didn't watch Gen V, do the little explanations about the virus and like the random inclusion of a couple of characters from that show feel awkward to
Or
you? Like when I watched it, I was like, if I didn't watch Gen V, this would feel very random to me.
yeah, I guess having not watched it, I don't think about it too much. I don't think they really stand out to me in a way that like makes me think this is awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can understand the writer's assumption that most people who are watching The Boys season 4 have probably watched Gen V. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I guess I just don't think about it too much when it comes
Yeah,
up.
Okay. Well, that's
well,
good.
and that's the failure of the show to really tie in. Like Gen V is great. It's actually a really good. Like it's my favorite. I
Mm-hmm.
said to Laura, it's my favorite season of The Boys. Is Gen V. It's very tight. It's fun. You get to hear from like younger soups and stuff. But they've really failed to like really make it relevant at all whatsoever to The Boys so far. And I'm still
Yeah.
hoping because I like those characters. I'd like to see them, come in. In fact, the shapeshifter that's on this season, at first I thought might have been like a disguised Kate, because Kate is a
Right.
telepath who she can push her will onto people, but the way she does it is touching them, which is the same way this shapeshifter samples. So when we first met the shapeshifter, she was running out of the apartment. She touched the woman by the door. I thought it was actually like Kate who was telling the woman to like go destroy the evidence while they chased her out. But that's not it at all. Now we have a shapeshifter. Shapeshifters are so valuable to the show. It's such a OP
Mm-hmm.
power. And they got rid of Doppelganger very early on in the show.
Yeah.
Doppelganger was very an interesting character, and Homelander killed them. But I figured kind of that we weren't done with shapeshifters, but the way in which this shapeshifter shape shifts is crazy and disgusting, and unfortunately reminds me a lot of Laura. You'll appreciate this Little Cricket, like the way she gets
Oh,
small or big, where it's like you have to
yeah.
destroy part of yourself, yeah, to like
Mm-hmm.
change. But oh
Oh.
well.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so much there. We don't have time to, get super, super deep into all of this, but we definitely will when we do our full, episode recap and analysis of season 4 coming out in a few weeks and making predictions about season 5. But yeah, there's so much we didn't even get a chance to touch on
Yeah.
here today. Like even touching on like where things are with Butcher and Kessler at this point, the fact that Ryan is really being set up to be uh, the person who goes up against Homelander next week, the fact that the shapeshifter took Annie's form and that Annie is like locked up somewhere and Huey has no idea. He's just over here boinking the shapeshifter in a Starlight costume. So there's just so much more that we can touch on next week when we do our reaction to the finale, but also in the full season 4 reaction that we're going to do for the pod.
I want to ask you guys, it
Yeah.
is hard to imagine The Boys without Butcher, but it seems like his storyline is coming to a close. He's
Mm.
not doing well health wise. Do we think that the show could end, or that this season could end with the death of Butcher?
Ooh.
I have a hard time imagining them taking Carl Urban out of the equation at this
Mm,
stage. I feel like
Yeah.
Butcher I think Butcher and Homelander are both going to die. It's not going to be this season, though.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Yeah, and you did bring up earlier, Eric, that Butcher is a good equal to Homelander, so having them both still around is beneficial to the show. But yeah, by the end, seeing both of them die, that would be. I don't want to see. I want to see Butcher live. Okay, he's the good guy, so I'm going to
Me
say
too,
no.
but it just they've been circling the
yeah,
drain
he's in
of,
a bad for sure.
wellness, and now
Yeah.
he's, this tumor, and the revelation about Kessler too is just like, oh, he's actively,
But now he can work with Ryan, so there's a fresh opportunity here to,
You're right.
Come
Yeah.
at Homelander.
It's possible that the next season would be not as drawn out too as well. Like it could take place under a shorter period of time, because I just really think at this point they're probably want to wrap this up.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I think the next season is also going to be more focused on a smaller cast of characters. They are definitely doing a lot of work right now to close up people's stories so that we don't have to spend as much time with them next season.
Yeah.
And it is good that they have established a clear ending for this series so they can build and work towards sticking the landing. Yeah.
And I know I, for one, am still finding a lot of relevance with today's politics situation.
Oh, yeah.
So much. And seeing as how they're planning to interfere with the election certification process. Laura, you called this out a few days ago. I mean, it was said in the show, but it looks like The Boys is ramping to their January 6th. That is confirmed now.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, they established that in the first episode of the season.
Yeah,
they dropped that date, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
here it comes."
Well, but at the same time, yeah. So just the thing, the people's attitudes to it, and the way the politicians view it, and the way that the soups view it, it's all just, you could pluck this. It's like if one of the soups says something and it's disparaging about the people or about democracy, you can bet it's like, oh, this is what rich people think. It's just very. Ugh, it's awful.
Oh, yeah. No, it's copy-pasted from reality. It just is. And I know we're going to see more of that next week. But that's all we have for today's reaction. But don't forget to check in with us next week as we react to the season 4 finale. As already stated, we know this is where we're going to go hard on that January 6th insurrection energy. So look forward to that. You can also check out the other great content that we have here on the channel, as well as full episodes of coverage about Bridgerton, The Boys, Heartstopper, Ghostbusters, and House of the Dragon. To check those out, subscribe to the MuggleCast feed for family-friendly versions of the podcast, but also check out the WTF edition for uncensored versions of the pod. We'll link both of those in the description. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below and tell us what you think is going to happen in the season finale.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Y'all.